Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Yeah, you can start. Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. You started already? Okay. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Gaura Bhaktivinoda Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutabada Kamalam Sri Guru Vaisnavascha Sirupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyahevacha Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Nama Eva Kevalam Kolau Nasteva Gataranyata Jaiti Namananda Rupam Murare Viramita Nijadarma Dhyana Pujadhyatam Kattamapi Sakiridatam Muktinam Praninam Yat Paramamritam Ekanam Jivanam Dusharande Maduram Madurebhyopi Mangalebhyopi Mangalam Pavanam Pavanebhyopi Harir Namahe Kevalam. So we're reading from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Jaiva Dharma, 6th chapter, Nitya Dharma, race and caste. And so one of the devotees associated with Vaishnava Das and Paramahamsa Das, Paramahamsa Babaji Maharaj. So his son tried to convince his father to go back home to Shantipur. So not knowing well about the Vaishnavas' glorious and So being surprised that the Vaishnavas were accommodating some Muslims also, who had become Vaishnavas. So therefore, he called a meeting amongst the Vaishnavas and the Smarta Brahmanas, who were then challenging the Vaishnavas. So Vaishnav Das, who was very learned, scholarly, so he answered the questions of the Smarta Brahmanas very nicely. So the last question was how a person who is disqualified from an ordinary privilege be qualified for something that is much higher. So Vaishnav Das explained that there are two human activities: material activities for practical existence known as Vyavaharik, and then spiritual activities related to the absolute truth, Paramarthik. And then he's explaining that one who has attained spiritual qualification, but it doesn't necessarily qualify him for material activities. So especially here referring to the Muslims who became Vaishnavas, but then due to time, place and circumstances, at that time they were not allowed to perform yagyas. And also here even mentioning that a Muslim may not be allowed to marry a daughter of a Brahmana. So because Muslims, they were supposed to be low class or atyashti.
So we're allowed to just do accept this fact?
No. Yeah. So we're just mentioning what is mentioned here, and then we will say something. So actually it is mentioned in the scriptures Anulom, Viva and Pratilom. According to the scriptures also, that usually a Brahmana, a man will marry a Brahmana woman from a Brahmani family, that is usually there. So the Brahmana, if he doesn't find one, then he may marry a Kshatriyani, a daughter of a Kshatriya, that is allowed. That is Anulom. But then the other way around, the Kshatriya, so usually he will marry the daughter of a Kshatriya. And so he would not marry a daughter of a Brahmana. That would be Pratilom. But he may marry somebody who is from the Vaishya community. But usually at that time also especially, even nowadays it is still there. So they would not marry somebody from the Shudra community. So because they are already considered too low. What to speak of those who are not born in Varna Ashram society, externally speaking. So even we can see that even in our society, Vaishnava society, even in ISKCON, we have seen, especially traditional Indian marriages. I know a few examples. And so the devotees are there, but then because the other, either vice versa, the boy and then for the girl, or girl and then for the boy, because they are not of the same caste, then they will not allow for the marriage. I know a few cases, and so because of society, because of the neighbors and so, where it is still prevalent that you have to see, that it is done according to the caste system. And but then we have to go a little bit beyond that, and as Vaishnavas, so we may see that, for example, those devotees from the West, so externally speaking, they may be outside of Varna ashram, because it is not even known. But if you study a little more carefully, you can see that even in the West, you have those who are intelligent, and they're just like Brahmanas, and those who have like almost like Kshatriya nature. So that is there everywhere. And so if Krishna is in the center, and then we may discard this external consideration. At the same time, still, an intelligent person will consult astrology to some extent to see if they're actually matching according to astrology. And they will also see the nature, the particular nature of those to be married. So that is helpful, that will be helpful to do that. But as Vaishnavas, we may not be so rigid, and then we may not just see the external, but we should see the actual, as even Krishna says, Chaturvarnam maya shishtam guna karma vibhakashaha. It is not only by birth, but it is according to the quality, the gun, and karma, the activities. That you can see somebody is Brahmanically inclined, and somebody is more a manager, somebody is more like a business person. Yes?
So someone is a psychopath.
So that is there, so we may consider. And then, especially we should see that how they are doing spiritually, if they are chanting the holy names nicely, if they are steady in their devotional life, if they're humble, tolerant, and respectful, then usually the marriage will go on nicely. So, at the same time, practically speaking, we can see even in our society that there has been many divorces in our society. And so then one may wonder, what is the reason? So basically, we may say that it is mostly then a lack of Krishna consciousness, and a lack of humility, tolerance, and respect. Mostly, because even if you have a husband and wife, or so, man and woman, so if both of them are mature, then the marriage is no problem. If even one of them is mature, then it can work also. It may work. But if both of them are not mature, then there may be some difficulty. Yeah, so that is there. But at that time, it was simply not possible for a Muslim to marry a daughter of a Brahmana, because the society was very strong, or the understanding of what should be done, what should not be done in regards to Varna ashram. And following Varna ashram is actually, it should be done. We have to follow Varna ashram, that is what also Prabhupada said. But most important is actually that we become devotees. And then we act according to Varna ashram, we follow Varna ashram, that we should understand. So then Churamani was saying, why is that? What is wrong if he does so? Vaishnav does. If one violates social customs, one is guilty of vyavharik dosh, secular impropriety. And members of society who take pride in their social respectability do not condone such activities. That is why one should not perform them, even if he is spiritually qualified. Churamani, tell me, what is the cause of eligibility for karma and what is the cause of eligibility for bhakti? Vaishnav Das. tatta karma yogya sabhava janma. Nature, birth and other such vyavharik or practical causes that make one suitable for a particular type of work are the sources of eligibility for karma. The source of eligibility for bhakti is tattvika shraddha, faith that is rooted in the absolute truth. So one is according to this material world, so according to Varnashram, and that has to be taken into consideration. And the other one is for those who have faith in the absolute truth. That is for, and so that is for everyone, and everyone can perform bhakti. But then acting according to Varnashram, especially at that time, so one has to take into consideration one's birth and then one's nature, tatta karma yogya sabhav. So one's activities, one's qualification, one's nature. And so therefore Prabhupada, the last year before he left, he was very much stressing on introducing one ashram, that he was saying that 50% of my work has been done. So then 50% is left, and that is establishing Varna Ashram Dharma. And he wanted devotees to have farm communities, Vrindavan villages, so means to live in nature and to act according to Varna Ashram, and as explained before also. So the residences of the Brahmanas should be one place, and those of the Kshatriyas, Vaishyas or Shudras, or even according to the ashram. So brahmacharis are together, so usually a temple was in the center, and then place for the brahmacharis to live, and then grihastha area, and place where the sannyasis or vanaprasthas, those who are renounced from Vana ashram. So that should be taken into consideration. Arrangements should be made so that they are not all together. So, and as explained last time, so that is still in some places, in traditional villages, it is still followed. And then there are less difficulties, but of course difficulties are always there in life. But if one is following Varna ashram, then the difficulties may be less, and then one may be able to properly engage in bhakti also, in devotional service. So just like we have to follow the rules and regulations of devotional service, Vaidhi Bhakti, and then one will be able to advance slowly but surely, and then one may be able to enter the realm of spontaneous devotional service, following the eternal associates of Krishna and Braj, which is then known as Raganuga Bhakti. But even those who perform Raganuga Bhakti, they are following as much as possible Vaidhi Bhakti also, just to set the example for others, and also just to protect themselves, because it is not so easy to become absorbed in pure devotional service, following the eternal associates of Krishna and Braj. So material energy is very strong, so one has to be aware of that, and one has to be careful and follow the rules and regulations of the scriptures. And so that includes Varna ashram also. We have to act according to Varna ashram, but we don't identify with the Varnas and ashrams. Therefore Mahaprabhu has said also, Naham vipranacha narabadira bevaishna sudra naham varnyacha kapadiyana vyasveterva Kintu pradyanikala paramananda paramaritabder gobi bhattabhadagama das anudas. So that is also important, that we do not identify, because at that time they were identifying, I'm a Brahmana, he's a Shudra, I should stay away from him. So, we should follow Varna ashram, but we should not identify too much with that, because after all, we are not this body, we are spirit soul. But we have to act according to Varna ashram as much as possible. And so that is actually natural. So Churamani, don't try to intimidate me with the language of Vedanta. Explain clearly what you mean by tat karma yogya sabhav. Vaishnav Das. The qualities that are found in the nature of a Brahmana are, the nature of a Brahmana, the qualities, control over the senses, sama. Shloka from Bhagavad Gita, sama udama tapal. No? It never came to the 18th chapter. Sama udama tapal shocham, shantir ajama evacha, jnana vijnana astikyam, brahma karma svabhavajam. No? Okay, 18th chapter, text number 42. Good verse to learn. Sama. Sama means control of the senses. Dhamma, control of the mind. Austerity, tapa. Purity, socha. Satisfaction, santosh. Santosh. Now this is Sajan Priya. Forgiveness, kshama. Simplicity, saralata. Devotion to Bhagavan, Isha Bhakti. Mercy, daya. And truthfulness, satya. So these are the natural qualities of a Brahmana. The natural qualities of a Kshatriya are prowess, teja, physical strength, va, resolution, dhriti, heroism, shaurya, tolerance, titiksha, magnanimity, udarata, perseverance, udyam, gravity, dhyarata, devotion to the Brahmanas, brahmanyata, and opulence, aishwarya. So these are your qualities? Something, a little bit? Yeah. The qualities that characterize the Vaishyas are theism, astikya, charity, dana, faith, nishtha, absence of pride, adambikta. Damba is pride, adambikta means absence of pride, and eagerness to accumulate wealth, artha trishna. So you can see basically that is the majority of this world. So they are, especially nowadays, they are mostly inclined towards Vaishya qualities. And then others are just like Shudras. But some leaders are there, or heroic persons, like Kshatriyas are there, and those who are Brahmanically inclined are there also, but minority. The natural qualities of a Shudra are service to the Brahmanas, cows and celestial deities, Vija Go Deva Seva, and satisfaction with whatever is obtained, Yata Labha Santosh. The qualities and the nature of an Antyaja, so outcast, so outside of Varna ashram, Antyaja means to be born. Or uncleanliness, asocham, dishonesty, mitya, thievery, chaurya, atheism, nashtikta, futile quarreling, vritta kalaha, lust, calm, anger, krodh, and hankering to satisfy one's senses, indriya trishna. So the Shastras prescribe that one's Varna should be determined according to these different natures. So therefore, especially the boys, they were sent to Gurukul, and then basic learning is there for everyone in the beginning, but then after a few years you can see who is naturally inclined to study more, and so then they may be Brahmanically inclined, and that should be developed, and then others who are more Heoric, they should be inclined towards that, and they should be trained in this way. So that was the system. So Prabhupada mentioned also from 5 to 12 or 13, Gurukul, and then Vana Ashram college should be there. And so, but that is hardly there anymore. I mean, like you can see in India, for example, everyone is going to the same school basically, right? Which is associated with the government from the 1st till the 12th. Everyone is the same. And you can see some are doing more well in the studies and somebody is struggling like anything. And then there's so much pressure, and especially in the 10th and the 12th, which are the board exams. So that is not the natural way, actually. And somehow, yes, you want to say something? Yeah.
But could we say that this is not the natural way?
Yes, it's not ideal.
Yes,
it is not
but
ideal.
in spiritual life also, we all have to go through the same studies.
Well, that is also not actually the natural way.
But we have to go through the same siddhant, same
No, the Siddhanta is there.
morning
That,
routine, everyone has to get up early. Same thing basically, just like school life. Then how
Yeah.
can we say that this is the right way? That is
no, that is there. It is also not completely the right way. No. Therefore, I mean, so discipline has to be there, and that is there in society, even in our society, discipline has to be there. But then the leaders have to be actually, they should be able to then see the quality of those who are joining. But nowadays it is true that actually there is not much understanding of this and discrimination. Everyone gets the same training, but not everyone is doing the same and is doing well. And some are struggling, many are struggling, because it is not their nature to be Brahmanically inclined. So that is definitely a problem, even in our society, because Vana Ashram is not implemented. So right from the childhood, in the school, and even in the society at large. Only now, slowly but surely, some spiritual leaders, they recognize this point, and they try to do that accordingly. So, yeah. And but that is how it should be done. You should see the nature of the person and then engage accordingly. And yeah, actually in Switzerland, somehow they have a better system in this regard. First, this primary school, secondary school is there. Of course, the thing is, one thing is lacking, that is Krishna consciousness or the spiritual values. But in terms of externally, the teaching which is there, that is almost according to Vana Ashram. Because they have the primary and secondary school, 1 to 3 is primary, secondary from 3 to 6. And then you have the school which is there for those who are not very intelligent. There is a school there. And then they learn how to, like for example, what do you say, the carpenter, and those who are doing manual things. So that is there. And then they have the school for those who are mediocre, who are in the middle, who are not, they are not stupid, or they are not so spiritually or material speaking intelligent, and then they go to that school for 3 years, which is the majority of the people, which is there, the majority of the people in society. There will be like Vaishya, or maybe some Kshatriya qualities will be there. And then they have actually then the school for them, and there's the commerce school and things like that. So that is there. But those who are highly intelligent, So they will go after 6 years. There's a school called gymnasium. That is for those who are highly intelligent. They go there for 4 years and they go directly to the university. And those who are in the middle school for 3 years, from there they also, if sometimes they may go to university also from there. But they have to study 3 years. So and then they may go to university. So this way is a kind of system which is more adapted according to the psychophysical nature. But yeah, one thing is lacking, that is the Krishna consciousness, or just in general the spiritual awakening or spiritual teachings which are not there practically. In the beginning there were some Bible classes, but that is not even here nowadays. But in my time there was Bible class which we had to attend at least maybe twice a week, but now it is not even there. No, and so in India also that system was there actually. Now nothing is there practically. But now finally, I mean, not only ISKCON but other institutions, they also, or some other people, they also understand that we have to revive the old Indian Gurukul system, which is according to that system also. And then you have the intelligent class of people and so. So there's some people, they understand now also, they want to go back to that. Yes.
Question.
Yes.
Seriously, but you said revive Indian system, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Vedic system, you may say, yeah.
Question. Now our modern teachers who are into like more humanitarian education, which is
Yes.
very beneficial for teaching for children, they're saying that all the systems which are in the schools and universities, they have to be modified because we have new generation, new children, you know, so it's absolutely different children, like generation Z, for example. So, therefore, you know, they understand, reciprocate, and differently. So, considering this Vedic system, how that old system can be introduced to a new generation. Children are absolutely different. They will want these phones in their hands.
Yeah.
They're completely different. So how we can take that old system, you know, we also have to modify it, right?
Right. Yeah, we have to modify also.
How?
Definitely. Well, that we have to use one's intelligence. And one thing is there, you have to take out the mobile from the children's hands. Or at least you have to, no, it's not life, it is not true. So you have to restrict that. And that is, you know, people become dependent on the mobile, not only the children, even the adults, which is not good.
I just one time saw one
Yeah.
video, they have this Gurukul,
Yeah.
and that was a girls' Gurukul actually,
Uh-huh.
and they have no mobile.
Yeah.
They're staying there, they don't
In
know.
what country?
Huh?
In what
Here.
So, you know, as soon as they enter into Gurukul, and then they cannot use mobile
Yeah.
until they are there.
Right.
But they're learning so many different things and
Yeah, that's how it should be.
nice things.
Even in our Gurukul here, they are not able to use the mobile except maybe they have 1 hour during the day. So they have to, you know, so they have to restrict. So that is there. So even some of our leaders who have the farm projects, they have the same system. That the usage of the mobile is restricted, which is a good thing because people are becoming controlled by the mobile. Because it is a kind of Maya actually, so and it's difficult to control. I mean, the mind is difficult to control, and the mobile is a kind of device which came into being by the arrangement of Maya to bewilder the conditioned soul. And even the sadhakas, they become bewildered. So it is very difficult. Now in the VIHE, so they have Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, and as you know, right? Yeah. So now they have Bhakti Pravesh, entering Bhakti, Bhakti Sadachar, to prepare them for Bhakti Shastri. And then they have a class also that, just 1 or 2 classes, but still, about the mobile.
Do you think we were following?
If they're following,
We were following? We were painting sometimes, or sometimes no, or sometimes I was painting one from the second one was with me. Because I needed
yeah. But anyhow, the thing is, they will give some tips of how to try to control this, which is mostly becoming. Of course, you can learn so much with the mobile and then internet, Google. It can be very useful. At the same time, also it can be detrimental, or you can waste so much time. I know some good devotees also, and educated, and even like spiritually already long time in the movement, or then well situated in this world also. And then one of them also, I mean a few also told me, but specifically one that this mobile is really a problem, and sometimes I just get lost into that. I know it's not good, but it's just happening. And then you're there for 1 hour, 1.5 hours looking this and this and this and this and that. And to some extent you can use some of the things, but many times things are not really so much required. So there's a danger there, and that one may waste time. Of course, even without mobile, many times the conditioned soul is wasting time. But so one has to be careful. That is the point in regards to the mobile, but otherwise also to control the mind. So anyhow, so it is not so easy to adapt according to this time of this age, and for introducing the Vedic culture. It is true, it is not so easy, but we have to make an endeavor and use one's intelligence and see how we can do it as much as possible. And so, but to bring back the Vedic culture, so that that is actually what should be done. And so similarly in our society, so Prabhupada wanted to establish one ashram, because that is actually required, because we cannot immediately enter the spontaneous platform, so that one has to follow rules and regulations and then act according to one ashram. That is the point. And we should try to introduce if we can, but it's not easy, that we know. And so some leaders have tried, but it's not easy. And even now they're trying, but it's not easy. But we should try. But then on the individual basis, we have to, of course, try to follow our path and engage in spiritual activities and try to be properly situated according to Varnashram, and do our duty and try to advance as much as possible in this lifetime. And then we see and prepare for the next lifetime. Or pray that the next lifetime we may have a better situation in order to advance more, in order to become perfect in Krishna consciousness. So it's an ongoing process, and we have to endeavor. Okay, or some other question? Fine. The Shastras prescribe that one's Varna should be determined according to these different natures. The determination of Varna on the basis of birth alone is a recent practice. So that is like 400-500 years ago. An individual's inclination for a specific type of work and his expertise in it are both related to these natures. A person's nature gives rise to his inclination and taste for particular activities, and it is this particular nature, Sabhav, that is known as the nature according to specific types of work. So therefore, sometimes one who is born in a Brahmana family, but he may not be so Brahmanically inclined. So then somebody is born in a Vaishya family, but then he may also not be inclined to just do the business of the father, or just to be a clerk somewhere, or just take care of the cows and the land. So Janma, birth, is one thing, but so then we have to see also Purva Samskara. According to last life, then some inclination will be there. But then the birth maybe is usually as a result of previous activities, but then sometimes it is also mixed, so the karma, and one has done something good, but then he has done something which was not good, and so therefore according to that he will take birth in a family which is not so exalted. But then still he may have a good nature which is more than the nature with the bad nature, and then he may be elevated, and then he may be Brahmanically inclined. So therefore birth is not everything, but then the nature which will be there, that has to be seen, and then the activities according to the nature. I mean, many times here we have seen that many Bengalis are here, and especially previously, like 20, 30 years ago, and born in Brahmana family, but then they just couldn't, because again there's no teaching there about Brahminical qualities so much. Everyone is going to same school, but then also due to maybe previous life impressions. So birth was good, Brahmana family, but then he's just becoming an ordinary person. And then many of the Bengalis, they came here and then pulling rickshaw. So I remember also sometimes sitting on the rickshaw and then chanting Hare Krishna. And so then the rickshawala is pulling the rickshaw and showing, I am a Brahmana who is pulling the rickshaw. So that is not a Brahmana. So we can see, practically speaking, sometimes somebody has a good birth, but then he's performing activities which is from a lower caste, and somebody sometimes from a lower caste, and he's becoming a devotee, and then even getting second initiated, and then worshipping the deities. So they may be there. So it is very much mixed nowadays, and therefore sometimes it is difficult to ascertain right in the beginning what is somebody's nature. But in due course of time one can see. So especially those who are experienced, the teachers or the leaders, then they may see, and then they may engage accordingly as much as possible. So in some cases birth is the prominent factor in ascertaining a person's nature. In other cases association is a primary factor. Nature is formed by association, which begins from birth. So birth is certainly one cause that determines the development of nature. So indeed nature develops from the moment of birth, but that does not mean that birth is the only cause of nature and eligibility for a particular type of work. It is a great mistake to think like this, for there are many other causes. Therefore the Shastras prescribe that one must study a person's nature when one assesses eligibility for work. So clear, right? Churamani, what is meant by Tattvic Shraddha? Faith in the absolute truth. Vaishnav Das. Tattvic Shraddha is pure-hearted faith in Bhagavan, which gives rise to a spontaneous attempt to attain Him. A tattvic shraddha, unreal faith, is that which is based on an erroneous conception of Bhagavan which arises in an impure heart on seeing worldly activities. And which gives rise to self-interested endeavors rooted in pride, prestige, and worldly desires. Some Mahajans have described Tattvik Shraddha as Shastriya Shraddha, faith in the scriptures. It is this Tattvik Shraddha that is the cause of eligibility for bhakti. So Shraddha, so that means faith. And so of course different kinds of faith are there. You can see ordinary people, they may also believe in God. So that is known as Shraddha, they have Shraddha, they believe in God. But then they are not really understanding how to advance in spiritual life, or they don't even have much interest in that. So that is just Lokik Shraddha, also sometimes explained as Lokik Shraddha, that is ordinary worldly faith of this world by ordinary persons. But then if one is in the association of the saintly persons, the sadhus, then it becomes Paramarthik Shraddha. Then it becomes spiritual, or it becomes, as mentioned here, to Tattvik or Shastriya Shraddha. So it becomes then spiritual, or you may say then ultimately transcendental. But then there's a degree also in the beginning. So there's Komal Shraddha, there's soft faith for the neophyte devotees, Kanishta Bhakta. So they have Komal Shraddha, and their faith may be easily shattered. Some problem happens in the world, in their life, and then they may give up the faith in God. They may believe in God, and then one family member dies, maybe one's child or whatever, or near relative who's maybe still young, and then why this is happening to this family member, to my family member, and at this young age, person died. And so that may be there, and then one may lose faith. So that is very weak faith. But then, so the devotee who is more advanced, more purified in consciousness, he will have Drir Vishwas, strong faith. So those who take shelter of a devotee, and then that means they take shelter of the scriptures. And under the guidance of the spiritual master, then they will learn the scriptures. And that faith becomes strong. And the more one is performing devotional service, the more one is hearing about the process of devotional service, about the Supreme Lord, then one's faith increases. Because then there is an exchange with Krishna, with the Supreme Lord. And then when we see that Krishna is there to help us, Krishna is making arrangements so we can advance. Krishna is making arrangements even so that we can live peacefully in this world. But then we learn also that difficulty is always there in this world, due to previous our impressions, or due to usually sinful activities or no proper behavior, that we have then to suffer some difficulties. Or even so, then if one is then somewhat properly engaged in devotional service, but still difficulties may be there, and that may be again due to offenses. But then we should understand that it is the nature of this material world. The difficulties will always be there. and therefore we have to tolerate. Whatever may be the cause, due to our previous sinful activities, due to some offenses, or just being the nature of this world, whatever, difficulties will be there and we have to tolerate. And we have to just take shelter of Krishna and see the hand of Krishna is there also, directly or indirectly. So we have to have strong faith, and so usually by engaging devotional service one will become purified, and then one will have strong faith, and then one will be able to advance despite all difficulties. And because one will have the practical realization and the reciprocation with Krishna. Krishna is very kind and is reciprocating with the devotees. And then one will feel transcendental pleasure, because Krishna is the source of all pleasure, permanent. And so by hearing about Krishna, then, so by regular hearing about Krishna, by sufficient hearing about Krishna, then Krishna will be established in the consciousness. And then, so the reciprocation will be there. And then transcendental happiness will be there. And then we can overcome all difficulties. And the most important activity, of course, in the age of Kali is chanting the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And so therefore devotee will try to chant as much as possible, try to hear as much as possible about Krishna, and then serve the deity or in the temple or at the home, and then there will be reciprocation. And then we can perform other activities also more easily, and then one can tolerate the difficulties which are there in this world. Adhyatmika, Adidaivika, Adibhautik miseries, they're always there. Sometimes more, sometimes less, but they are there. That we can see on a daily basis. Sometimes it is too hot. Then we have an AC to cool down, but the AC breaks down or something. Always something is happening. And then in relationship to other people or devotees, that sometimes difference of opinions are there, and or we do something, the other person doesn't like it, or the other person is doing something and we don't like it, and then there's some difficulty there, or then the body is giving some problem, or then the mind is giving problem also, our own mind, and then we can see it's nothing to do with anything from outside, but our own mind sometimes. And actually the biggest problem is coming from our own mind. If our mind is controlled or fixed on Krishna somewhat, then we can adjust. We can tolerate more the own difficulties from the own body and mind, and then from others also, and just be positive. So true devotee is humble, tolerant, respectful, positive, and sees everything as Krishna's arrangement. Ishwaram yat karoti, shobhana eva karoti. Whatever the Lord does, that is for our good. That is good. So examples are there in the scriptures. You remember the famous one I told before? No? You know the one? Ishwaram yat karoti, shobhanam eva karoti. One time there was a king.
Yes.
Okay, remember?
Yes.
And the king always had an advisor, at least one, sometimes more. Like even the Muslim kings here, or who are ruling here in India, and so some of them were a little more pious than others. One Akbar was there. So, and he was a little more respectful towards the Indians, the Hindus or the Vaishnavas, and he was intelligent, and he engaged some Brahmanas actually from here. And he had his Muslim advisors also, but he had some Vaishnavas as advisors. Birbal. Birbal stories are there, right, in India? You know them? You heard them? Yeah, nice stories. And then Tantseng was there, another one, the Vaishnav. So then they were giving advice, good advice. And they always had uneven numbers of advisors, because sometimes then they had to discuss some crucial topic or difficulty, and then they had to vote, the advisors, to do this or that. So if you have even numbers, then it may be like, if you have 8, then it will be 4-4 maybe. But if you have 9, then, and everyone has to vote and give their opinion, so then the majority that he will accept. And then he makes according to the Brahmana's advice, then he will do the judgment, and then he can say, well, the Brahmanas are advising me to do it in this way, and he's safe. But then of course still, the king has all the right to even change that. But usually he was following that. So then everyone is then seeing, well, he's following according to the Brahmanas, and the Brahmanas are intelligent, and they know what to do and what not to do. They're consulting the scriptures and seeing time, place, circumstances. So the big kings, they had many advisors. A small king, he had one advisor. Not two, one or three. So the one advisor was there. So, you know the story? No, you know the story of the king of the Brahmana. Brahmana advisor. Ishwaram yad karoti shobhanamev karoti. Okay. So the king was there, and the Brahmana, he was learned, and many times he was quoting Ishwaram yad karoti shobhanamev karoti. Whatever the Ishwar is doing, the Lord is doing, that is auspicious. And so the king, one time, so he was sharpening his sword, and he cut his finger. And the Brahmana is saying, Ishwaram yad karoti shobhanamev karoti. So whatever the Lord does, that is auspicious for you. And he lost his finger. He was thinking, what is auspicious in that? And then the Brahmana saying, no, it is the verdict of the scriptures, and we have faith. And he became angry at the Brahmana. What nonsense. Because, losing the finger, and then for the Kshatriya who is using bow and arrow, there's some inconvenience, the thumb. So he said, okay, I put you in the prison. And he's saying, while he's being put in the prison, Ishwaram yad karoti, shobhanamev karoti. Auspicious. And the king is saying, yeah, okay, you see how it is in the prison, how it is auspicious. And he was a relaxed Brahmana, just depending on Krishna, on the Lord, and doing his bhajan, and even in the prison chanting Hare Krishna and studying the scriptures. And the king is going for hunting. And then, so his advisor was not there, and he didn't have, just at that time there was no servant there. And he was thinking, I'm the king, I'm powerful. So he was going to the forest, and then some dacoits were there, and they were worshipping Kali, goddess Kali. And they saw him, the king attacked him, they captured him. And they were doing an offering to Kali, human body offering. Sometimes they do that. So what they do first, they will clean the animal or the human being, and then only they will offer to the Lord. You have to offer nice things to the Lord, right? You offer fruits. They should be cleaned. The human being or the animal should be clean, and then the offering. That's what they do actually. They wash the animals, and then they kill and offer to Durga. Still there's a temple there in Assam, Kamakya Devi. You have been there? No. I've been there. Oh my God. Yeah, so but
In Calcutta also they are talking.
yeah. And they still do that. I didn't see them do, fortunately, but they are still doing it.
Over human flesh.
No, but the animals, not the humans. Yeah. Well, I mean, not of course. Don't say of course. But still, they may do.
Still they will do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But these are offering everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
People just do it.
But even, I mean, in the West, they're killing the embryo, right? And you know what they do sometimes? Yeah.
Like
So,
in American restaurants.
yeah, they serve the
You
embryo.
can sell yourself
Yeah.
and you serve your meat.
In Korea,
So,
You can sell themselves in the restaurant on the whatever price. And then they serve that meat.
anyhow, so whatever. So they caught the king. They were giving him a bath, not the royal bath. And then they saw the thumb is not there. So then they told to the leader, oh, we got this person here, but this thumb is not there. Oh gosh, okay, let him go. And then he was saved. And then he said, thank God, I just lost my finger. And then he went home and he was thinking, and yeah, okay. So for me it is true, Ishwamaya karoti, Shomaneva karoti. My finger is gone, but my life is still okay. And then he was thinking, but what about now the Brahmana? He went to the Brahmana, so anyhow my life was saved because my thumb was lost. So then he related to him, but you are in the prison. I will get you released if you can answer me or tell me that how it was a benediction for you to be in the prison. How it was auspicious for you to be in the prison. Now in the prison, what auspiciousness is there? Then Brahmana was saying, if you would not have put me in the prison, you would have taken me with you to the hunting. And then they would have seen that person's finger is gone, we let him go, and this person is fine, so we'll offer him.
he's a Brahmana too.
Yeah.
Clean.
And he's a Brahmana. He doesn't need to be, you don't even have to give him a bath, he's already clean. So then he understood, yes, okay, he released him immediately, yes, you're right. So he was saved because he was in a prison, he didn't have to go with the king. So whatever the Lord is doing, that is auspicious. So my back is paining and I have a problem, but something good must be good there. So at least I'm taking enough rest. I am forced to take enough rest. Yeah, but still. I hope my back is getting better soon.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, whatever the Lord does is good.
Because it will actually make you more healthy.
Yeah.
I know for sure. This is what happened with Prabhu.
Yeah.
She got more.
Now she's very healthy.
Yes, her back
Healthy,
became
wealthy and
strong.
wise. And you're also healthy, wealthy and wise. Huh? That's good. Yeah. Okay. So, yes. So whatever the Lord is doing, that is good. So, anyhow, so we should have faith in the Lord and have faith that the Krishna is actually trying to help us. And so when we have the faith, then we can overcome all difficulties and we are not getting too much disturbed. But of course, sometimes some disturbance is natural. Even sometimes the pure devotee gets disturbed by some things which are happening. But then he's fixed. The point is that he's fixed despite all difficulties. He will continue with his devotional service, with what he has to do, and then things will get adjusted also. So, like even Srila Prabhupada, sometimes he was disturbed, like his god brothers were not helping him when he wanted to take sannyasa, so he started a movement of course, except one or two exceptions were there. And then in Bombay, when he wanted to establish the temple there, so he got some land, and when Mr. Nair was there, Mr. Nair, and so first he gave the land, but he wanted to take it back, and then there was a court case, and it was a difficult situation. Prabhupada got very disturbed sometimes. But then he still continued with his seva, whatever, preaching all over the world, but then he was concerned, and then he was calling the devotees, what is happening in Mumbai. And then one time Prabhupada was so disturbed, he was saying, I wish that this Mr. Nair will die. And usually a devotee is not wishing that somebody else will die. But if one is like a snake, like it is mentioned in scriptures that the pure devotee or a devotee is even taking pleasure to see when the snake or the scorpion is being killed, because they are envious animals. Even you may be just walking, according to scriptures, they may just bite you. It may be, or a scorpion also. So you have to be careful. So that is according to the scriptures. And anyhow, but then, so one has to continue. Even in managing, sometimes difficulties are there. Even when Prabhupada was here, before the temple was established, or even when the temple was just established, many problems were there. And sometimes it was too much for Prabhupada. And then he used to go to the Goshala and just see the cows and chant Hare Krishna and try to forget the problems which were there. So life, even so, pure devotee is facing difficulty, but and getting to some extent disturbed, but then he's taking shelter of the holy names, and then he's trying to be absorbed with Krishna internally and remembering Krishna and his wonderful pastimes, and then he can tolerate the difficulties. But then still, so when you have to deal with the things of this world, there's some difficulties there, and then some disturbance may be there, but we have to just tolerate and continue taking shelter of Krishna. Okay, so we should stop here.